What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video I am going to be discussing the top 15 fighters outside the top 15 in the UFC. I'm basically doing a pound for pound unranked fighters list, and I'm going to be discussing the best fighters in a skill sense of things. I'm not going to be looking at like, oh, who's got the best resume, this and that. None of that fucking dumb shit, yeah. I'm going to be looking at just who I think is the best 15, or who are the best 15 fighters that are not currently ranked in the UFC's rankings. If I missed your favorite number 11 ranked real estate agent, I don't care. It's fucking bomb of a thing, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm going to be giving my opinion. Obviously, this is subjective. If you guys think someone is better than someone else, that's your opinion. That's okay. Just let me know in the comments, and we can have a nice and friendly discussion, and there won't be any racism. But anyway, let's move on to the start of the video. Let's get started with the number 15 placement. Number 15, I believe Joe Pyfer deserves a mention in one of the top 15 best unranked fighters. Now, maybe he's just a power merchant. You know, Joe Pyfer is carrying the entire fucking anger of the salt mines on his back. He's just carrying all of that sodium into the octagon, which transfers into his Ngannou level power, which he will have a meltdown if you don't believe it. You must say that he has harder power than Ngannou. He hits harder than Ngannou, and if you don't think so, you're just hating. That's the go with Joe Pyfer. But I do think he's very good. He's got some strong grappling. Look, he didn't look great in the later rounds against Jack Hermansson, but a lot of these guys on this list haven't had that test or haven't fought that top 15 guy. Some of them have, but a lot of these guys I'm going to be talking about haven't actually had the chance to prove themselves. Joe Pyfer he had a chance. I still think he'll get back to that spot. I still think he's very good. He's got strong grappling. He's got submissions. He's well-rounded, strong guy, powerful dude. And yeah, I think Joe Pyfer is a very solid fighter and one of the better fighters in the upper weight classes outside the rankings. Let's move on though to the number 14 spot. For the number 14 spot, I believe Joshua Van deserves a mention. Now, maybe this is a bit of bias because I am a big Josh Van fan. I've been a stan of Josh Van for a while. You know, I've been rooting for this guy. I've picked him in pretty much every single one of his fights, I'm pretty sure. I was very disappointed if you watched my live reaction to him getting finished by Charles Johnson. That was very sad. I was very upset by that. But I think he's very good. I think he's going to crack into the top 15 in his next fight where he fights Cody Durden on UFC 310. I think he's going to win that. His striking is nuts. He's got great combinations. His offensive striking is incredible. Defense needs some work. Chin, little bit of an issue. He has been dropped in 3 of his fights. Kevin Borjas dropped him in the first round. Charles Johnson dropped him, and then Edgar Shires also dropped him once, I believe, maybe even twice in their fight. But I do think he's pretty solid. His recovery for the most part seems solid. And yeah, when this guy's walking forward, putting combinations together, his boxing is crazy to watch. He's got great output. He almost broke the record for most body shots landed in a flyweight fight. And keep in mind, I think the winner or the leader of that record, I think, was a very grappling heavy fight where they were landing like ground and pound to the body. So Josh Van was just landing punches on the feet, which is even more difficult to do from range, landing body shot combinations. His striking is slick, does, as I said, need some work on the defense. But even, this guy is young in his MMA game. Like, he hasn't been training MMA for that long, and he's already getting, like, scoring takedowns. Like, he's questionable IQ because he did drop for a fucking footlock in his last fight. He's like pushing for a takedown against the fence and he drops to a leg. Like, I don't know what the fuck he was doing. But he's getting double legs. He's like picking up dudes and slamming them. And actually like looking well-rounded and having good top control, good submission defense awareness as well. So I think Josh Van has got a long way to go. He's not a finished product by any means, but I still think he's got like 5 years minimum until he even starts to get into his prime, and I still think he's already top 15 caliber, so I'm going to mention him on this list. Anyway, let's move on to the number 13 spot. Next up, we've got number 13 spot, and I believe Gregory Rodriguez, otherwise known as RoboCop or Obama, is the rightful of a spot on this list. Look, he did get KO'd by Bruno Ferreira, but apart from that, he's looked real solid. He's looked well-rounded. He's looked very good. He's looked dangerous. He's KOing guys on the feet like Brad Tavares. He's taking guys down like Dennis Tillul and beating them up. Who else did he beat? He beat CLD in his last fight. Tricky guy to deal with, rangy dude. Worked his grappling, beat him up. And this guy is mostly, for his career, just been like a bruiser, fucking striker type of guy who just throws hands, right? But if you don't know, this guy is crazy level grappling. Like, I'm pretty sure he's grappled ADCC level in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I assume in Nogi. But this guy's grappling is nuts. He gets people down. I know Dennis Tillul sucks, but like he took Dennis Tillul down, and like within like 10 seconds, I'm like, oh, great takedown. I turn around, I'm talking to my mate, look back, this guy's like on back mount, just fucking killing this man with elbows. Like, Gregory Rodriguez is really good. He doesn't have a fight booked right now, I don't believe. I want him to get a fight. I want him to get a top 15 opponent, because I think he can beat them. Like, his power is nuts. He's got great power. Maybe the chin's a concern, but he seems to take some shots really well. I guess Bruno Ferreira just can hit you like that. And that was his debut. That was before anyone really knew who he was, and you couldn't really game plan for Bruno Ferreira. But yeah, and that was also a short notice opponent, I believe, for Gregory Rodriguez. But yeah, he's really good. I think he deserves a mention. Maybe you could say some of the lighter weight class guys, but I don't want this list to just be all lightweights or all featherweights or bantamweights, because that would be a bit boring. So I'm spreading it around a bit. You'll notice there's not going to be any heavyweights or light heavyweights. I'm sorry, we're not going to get a Rodrigo Nascimento appearance in the video. I know you guys really like someone's been calling for a 10-minute outside foot battle breakdown of Rodrigo Nascimento versus Alexander Romanov. Maybe that's like a Patreon thing. I could start a Patreon or a members. I'll do some stuff like that there. If you guys want, let me know. But yeah, it's mostly going to be lighter weight class guys. But in terms of a upper weight class guy, I think Gregory Rodriguez is the highest ranked unranked fighter past, I think, 170 that I have on this list. So congratulations to Robocop. Anyway, let's move on to the number 12 spot. For the number 12 spot, I believe Yousefzal deserves a mention on this list. Now, maybe I've been overrating him, or maybe I am overrating him after, like, not amazing in terms of, like, level of opposition. Like, he came in, but I think all submissions as well. Like, if they were decisions, I'd question it. If he's taken them to a close decision, I wouldn't have him on this list. But finishes over Billy Quarantillo, Jano Aarons, and now Jack Shaw is fucking solid. Like, Jack Shaw's not bad. Jack Shaw was giving a pretty tough fight to Joanderson Brito before the fight got stopped because he had a cut on his leg. Jack Shaw's a guy who, now got smoked by Ricky Simon, but he was doing well. It seemed kind of like he was sort of prospect status at bantamweight, and then he moved up because he was just fat and couldn't make the weight properly. But Yousefzal, I think, is great. And also, apart from Josh Emmett, this guy is the only guy, I believe, to go in the UFC to go to a decision with Ilia Topuria. Fucking little Maltese. No, that's Osman. Fucking slap that nails off. Little retard. He's the only guy apart from Josh Emmett to take him to a decision, and I haven't watched the fight super closely, like I haven't watched it back, but obviously he lost, but I think he took a round off Ilia, so Josh Emmett, I don't think he took a round off Ilia, I think he just got whooped the whole time, but Yousefzal has skill. Some of his early UFC fights before he left and then came back didn't go his way, but he's come back this year. He's 3-0 this year, one of the better high-profile ranked fighters of the year, I'd say, just behind the Fighting Nerds guys. Just behind Gene Silva and Carlos Prates, probably the third best unranked fighter of the year in terms of like the resume they've put together this year. I think he's really good. His submissions are great. He's even showing some good skill on the feet now. But yeah, you can't get on the ground. People forget, man. Like, you do not want to be in that ground game, man. That's Zalal's world, as Joe Rogan would say. But I think this guy's really good and he deserves a mention. Anyway, let's move on to the number 11 spot. Next up, I believe Vinicius Oliveira is one of the better fighters outside the rankings, and I think we have him in the fan rankings. If you guys follow the channel for a while, you know after UFC 300, we started the fan rankings, and basically we just ignore the normal system that the UFC does theirs, which is just inconsistency and retardation. But I put up polls and I ask you guys who you want in the fan rankings, and you guys vote. So it's not me being biased. It's not the UFC fucking getting what they want out of the rankings or anything like that. It's just unbiased fan vote, and you guys decide. And you guys decided that you wanted Vinicius Oliveira in the fan rankings, and as such, he is there. So congratulations to him. But yeah, he's very good. I think he's great. He beat Ricky Simon, tuned him up as well. He looked a bit iffy in the debut with Bernardo Sopage, but he's fighting this weekend. I think Bernardo's pretty solid. I think he's going to get a good win. But Vinicius Oliveira, his striking's great. His takedown defense wasn't the best in his first fight, but it looked great against Simone. Kept it on the feet and just whooped his ass, and I picked him as like a plus 200 underdog in that fight, which was one of my better picks of the year. But yeah, Vinicius Oliveira is great. Look, the defense is a bit interesting. He does have his hands very low down and doesn't quite seem to have the same reaction times as a Prates or a Gene Silva who can kind of get away with the low hands. He does get caught a few times, but I think overall his offense is crazy. And when this guy is flowing in combination in the flow state, you saw that combination he put together at the end of the round against Simone in the third, or that flying knee against Sopage. He's got killer instinct. He's got one-shot power. He can just KO you at the blink of a fucking eye. So I think he's very good. I don't think he's going to be a champion, but I think he'll be like a top 5, top 10 maybe, or maybe top 5, definitely top 10 or top 15 guy in the near future. And he's not too old as well. So Vinicius Oliveira, keep an eye out. Anyway, let's move on to the next spot. Next up on the list at number 10, Ignacio Bahamondes, La Jujua, I think, or whatever the fuck his name is. Anyway, he's a great fighter. I'd love to fight him. But no, he's a very solid fighter, and he's looked great recently. He's had some iffy performances, but I think at his young age, he is 27, and I think that's the same for a lot of these guys, is they are younger, and they are still coming into their own, and they do have the kind of dodgy performances that you see a lot in those under 30-year-olds that they look great one time and look kind of mid the next. What's going on here? But then once you kind of get to 30, you're consistently, they reach that peak and either their peak is too low or they reach that peak and are consistently able to deliver on that. And we've seen recently, until proven otherwise, I'm probably going to be picking this dude unless he fights one of the guys that I have ranked above him on this list. But I think he's solid. Christos Yargos, head kick KO, and Manuel Torres, counter right hand or counter left, whatever the fuck it was, counter shot, pullback KO. Sick finishes, solid opponents. Torres is good. I think Torres is a good opponent. Yargos is pretty mid. I don't think Torres is like a great opponent, but I think that's the thing. You can't fault him until he actually fights a great opponent. I wouldn't say anyone on the resume of Ignacio Bahamondes is like great. I think he's got good opponents. He's lost to one of them who I'll have on this list in a second. But I don't think he's been able to prove himself yet. But I think he has the potential. And if you look at like the size, the frame of this dude, if this brother had a few more inches, oh Lord, don't get me salivating or fantasizing about it. I'm engaging the Stephen A. Smith kind of fucking approach here, but he's got the size, he's got the length, pause, no diddy. And he can make it work, pause, if he puts it together properly, but we'll see if he can do that. I hope he does, because he's entertaining as fuck to watch when he's on. But yeah, Ignacio Bahamondes, one of the better fighters at lightweight and one of the better unranked fighters in the sport as a whole. Let's move on though to the next spot. Start number 9, Mateusz Raumbetsky. I think this guy's really fucking good, and he does have a loss, right? But I'm going to talk about the guy that he lost to, don't worry. I'm not going to forget that. People forget, man. He did lose to Carlos Diego Ferreira, who is very good, and I'll talk about him in a moment. He'll be on the list, don't worry. But yeah, I just repeated myself twice. But Mateusz Raumbetsky, or Raumbetsky, whatever the fuck, however you say his name, Polish surnames, weird ass fucking names. But yeah, he had a great fight recently against Majderbek Oralbay, beat him up, was arguably should have gotten a fucking stoppage in that third round. It's like that probably should have been stopped. But he also has a KO or TKO win over Loic Rajdabov, who is pretty fucking solid as well I think Rajdabov's pretty solid. I put out a poll, or I put out a question saying who are some of the best unranked fighters, and I specified lightweight as a division to kind of focus on, and someone said Ribovic, and I was like, Ribovic is great, yeah, he's fun as fuck. I'd say if you're talking about the most fun fighters, he's up there. But he got beat by Rajdabov, and I don't know, he had a scrappy fight with Zellhuber. I think Ribovic is really good and I like him, but I just don't think he's quite on that same level as some of these guys, like a Rebecki, who I'm talking about, who smoked Rajdabov. So I think Rebecki's real good. I know he lost to Diego Ferreira. He looked good early in that fight. I think if he can keep his cardio, but his cardio looked good against Oralbay for most of it, and he was pushing a fucking crazy pace. I think he's always going to have some cardio problems just with how he's built. This dude's just going to expend energy doing a bunch of shit. And yeah, he's fighting at a high intensity, he's swinging up trying to fucking knock your head off. I compared him to Sean Shirk, just little fucking midget arms, just throwing big meaty hooks, as Lucas Chaser with it. Big meaty hooks. But yeah, Rebecca, great fighter. Top 10, maybe not top 10, but I think definitely in most people's top 15, Rebecca's a real solid guy, and a great unranked fighter as well. Let's move on though to the next spot. Next up, number 8, I believe, Ferreira, bro. This guy is not getting enough credit. This fucking anorexic Algerian, you guys gotta put respect on his name. Ferreira, bro. This guy has aura. After that Matt Frivola fight, I've talked about, I did a video after that, performances that like impressed me, or performances that like made me change my opinion on you. This type of like, I was not familiar with your game performances, and that's what this was when he went out there and tuned up Matt Frivola. Not only like caught him randomly with a KO, but dominated pretty much all of the fight. Had a tough moment early on, but then he was picking up Frivola, he was dumping him down, taking his back, getting close to chokes, and in the third round just fucking drills his head with a knee to the fucking skull and sleeps him. Now, maybe I'm overrating him based on one performance, but I think it's the same. This guy's 27, he's coming into his own, he's getting confidence. Put this dude in France. I don't want to see this guy anywhere else apart from fucking France, bro. If we can only get one Ferreira fight a year, but he fights like that, bro, make it happen, because I don't want to see this guy. Like, his fight before that was a boring fucking decision over Claudio Puelles. I don't care about that, but like, I guess Claudio Puelles is better than Matt Frivola. But no, give him opponents like this. I think he's really good on the feet when he gets the chance to prove it. Guys who are a bit more open a little bit, guys that fight a little bit less safe, I think he definitely shines against. Maybe he turns out to not be as good as I expect, based off that performance, because my expectations of Ziam were not that high after the Puelles fight. But after this fight, maybe I've been bamboozled by one fight. But I think this guy's crazy good. I think his grappling is really solid too. He's not just a one-trick pony, which I think a lot of guys are in the lightweight division, or just in the sport in general. Not like one-trick ponies, but like you see them do one thing good and you're like, oh, they're great, but then they're kind of mid in the grappling or mid in the striking. But Ziam seems like he's pretty good everywhere. He was picking up Frivola and dunking him down. Frivola's not a fucking easy guy to toss around and bully physically. So I think that was a fucking impressive-ass performance from Ziam. Anyway, let's move on though to another fighter. Next up, number 7 on the list, Grant Dawson. You know, Hall of Fame fucking post-fight interview giver as well after that last one. You know, shouting out his wife's behind. Incredible stuff, Grant Dawson. But the performance was great as well. And this guy, I think, people forget, man, beat Damir Ismagulov. Like, I know Damir is one of the guys that's like, oh, Damir. And then you kind of realize that he's not amazing. But Damir's pretty solid. I think Damir Ismagulov is a pretty fucking good fighter, if you know what I'm saying. Damir Ismagulov, he's not bad. And he took him down easily and just kind of dominated him in the grappling. I think, and apart from getting chinned randomly by Bobby Green, this guy hasn't really looked bad in many of his fights. He's looked a bit like, before that last fight, he's kind of looked a bit unable to get finishes at times. But if he throws ground and pound and he comes out as aggressive as he did against Rafa Garcia, this guy's going to be fucking problems for a lot of people. Now, I don't want to have him too high because, again, the striking is very questionable to get KO'd randomly by Bobby Green. Like, that's just not going to be a good look to be getting slept. Not even not even volume what are you going to do, volume punch? Not even like volume punch TKO'd. Like, he got full slept by Bobby Green. Like, that's not the best look. So I don't know if I rate his striking very high, but his grappling, very fucking good. This guy's the white fucking American Khabib. Like, he's the, I don't even know politically, I assume he's Republican. He's the Republican fucking American Khabib, I guess. Because that's how he was fighting against Rafa Garcia, bro. He's the American fucking Moicano, because these two train together. Actually very similar styles, I'll say that. Anyway, let's move on though to another fighter. Next up, number 6 on the list, I have got Ludwig Klein, who has a win over Ignacio Bahamondes. Now, the people that were putting Bahamondes over Klein, I put up a poll. Look, maybe it's because I didn't have them in the same poll. I had them in separate polls. But Bahamondes got a higher percentage of his poll than Klein did of his. Now, maybe that's because I had Mauricio Hui in the poll with Klein, and I think a lot of people rate him very highly. But I think Klein, I mean, I don't think I'm watched the fight, because I'm a fan of the sport. I watched him fight Ignacio Bahamondes, and I watched him beat him up and win comfortably. So I think you got to give Klein his credit. Yes, he did look kind of mid against Roosevelt Roberts. Roosevelt Roberts is kind of a tough guy to always look good against. I think a few people look a bit mid against Roosevelt Roberts, but Klein looked great against Bahamondes. He smoked Moises beat him up, dropped him in the first and third as well. Body shots were great. Takedown defense, brick wall fucking takedown defense too. I think Ludwig Klein, when he's on, and I think maybe that Roberts fight was just like, I'll win, who cares? He just didn't really seem like he gave a fuck to be there, to be honest. But I think if he gets the right opponent, he can show out, he can look good. And I just remember that fight against Moises and the fight against Bahamondes, and he's got to go on this list for me. Let's move on, though, to another fighter. Next up on the list, number 5, Mauricio Hui. Now, this is the typical left lane MMA fighting nerds glaze, because yes, I am going to just give these guys way more credit than any other fighters and talk about them like they're just the fucking gods of the sport. Because I just like the fighting nerds, bro. These guys have aura. I'll be doing the fight companion watch party for Prates this weekend, so tune into that. But Mauricio Hui, I rate him very highly. I picked him obviously against Malaki. I watched him on Contender Series. Was very high on him off Contender Series. I watched some of his regional tape. Obviously, if anyone comes along and is like, oh yeah, I knew Ruffy before Contender Series. Like, did you though? Were you watching random fucking jungle fight, like Brazil promotions? So, I think I did watch, I'll be honest, I started watching Contender Series onwards, and then I went back and rewatched from there, but I hate when some people be like, bro, I've been a fan of this guy from the regional scene. Have you though? But Mauricio Hui is really fucking good. His striking is elite, strikes at Conor McGregor, in my opinion. Is the better version of the real Conor. I know Lucas Tracy's been calling Paintel, but the real O'Malley. We call this guy the real Conor, bro. The non-coked up Conor. Early featherweight, no coke Conor McGregor is how Mauricio Hui reminds me of. Very good fighter. Now, unproven in terms of level of opposition, but I think that Dagestani dude that he fought is like top 30, top 40 caliber in the UFC anyway. I think he's really good, maybe even like top 25, top 20. So I think that's a fucking, maybe not top 20, but he's a good opponent. And so I think that's a good experience for Hui to get taken down a few times, look a little bit interesting in the grappling, a bit suspect, but still come back and beat him up. And then in his fight against Malaki, just a showcase, absolutely tuned that man up, worked him for 4 minutes and then finished him. So great performance there. About to see him fight next weekend against James Lontop. Probably going to be another showcase. Should tune him up as well. But yeah, Mauricio Hui, one of the best unranked fighters in the sport right now, even after just one UFC fight, in my opinion. Let's move on, though, to the next matchup, the next fighter. Next up, I'm going to go with Carlos Diego Ferreira. Now, look, he's an old vet. He's a crafty vet. He turns 40 in literally like 2 months in January. So Diego Ferreira is going to be a fucking certified unk and probably not fight again until like midway through the year, because that's how this guy rolls. He fights once a year. It's very frustrating. He fights in May. That's how he fought Michael Johnson in May and fucking slept his ass. And now he fought Rebecca. Let's expect to see this guy back no sooner than May. Hopefully they go to Brazil or something. Give him some actual incentive to fucking take a fight. But this guy's fucking good, bro. He was giving Mateusz Gamrot some trouble in their fight before he randomly injured his rib. And he whooped up for Rebecca, and everyone says how tough Rebecca is, how crazy he fights. Apart from a tough first round, Ferreira fucking neutralized this dude and just pieced him up at range on the feet. Now, do I think he's like the best skilled fighter or like a number 4 skilled fighter? Pure fucking amazing striking KO power? No. But he's just good, and I think in terms of just better, I think he's better than a lot of the guys I've mentioned, probably all of the guys I've mentioned before him, pound for pound. Great jiu-jitsu, great grappling, great striking too. I think his striking's underrated. He tuned up Rebecca. Now, maybe Rebecca's just open to that kind of style, very open on the feet, swings the big meaty hooks, open to counters, but I think he looked fucking great, and I think Carlos Diego Ferreira, if we see him back again soon, don't just fucking blindly be like, 40-year-old Diego Ferreira, yeah, let me bet on fucking Ribovic. Like, I'm sorry, I'd probably pick him to beat Ribovic or Zelhuber or some of these guys, Bahamondes. Like, I think he would win a lot of these fights. Maybe he randomly gets KO'd because old people can just get finished like that. But I think he's fucking good, bro. So keep an eye on Diego Ferreira. Don't sleep on him. Let's move on, though, to the number 4 fighter. My apologies, I meant number 3. But number 3 is on the thumbnail. It's Carlos Prates. I would love to have him higher, number 2 or 1. I would just glaze this guy and say, yeah, he's the best fucking fighter ever. But I'd say there's 2 guys that I think stand out just a step above him for now. But he will be ranked after this weekend because he will KO Neil Magny brutally and finish him badly in the first round. And if he doesn't, then it's probably not going to be a great look on this video because Prates, I'm very high on him. I think his striking is some of the fucking best in the sport, let alone the unranked pool. I think he's probably the best unranked striker, maybe. Yeah, I'm not far off there. That's around the conversation. I think he's by far the best fighter at welterweight outside the rankings. I think he's top 10 caliber right now at welterweight. You're telling me this guy doesn't, like, okay, grappling maybe, but, like, you're telling me on the feet this dude doesn't fucking chin Gilbert Burns? Or this guy on the feet doesn't have, like, a competitive fight with Leon Edwards? Call me crazy, but, like, I don't know, maybe I'm overrating Li Jingliang KO. But I think this guy's fucking good. I know everyone's like, oh, but he looked mid against Trevin Giles. Yeah, fucking Drickus looked mid against Trevin Giles before he randomly KO'd him. So shut up. Trevin Giles is weirdly, annoyingly good and just makes people look mid. So Prates, I think he's fucking legit as hell. I think he's going to smoke Magny and then go smoke a cigarette afterwards, and he's going to move on to a top 10 opponent, hopefully. I think Carlos Prates is just fucking good. I think this guy's already top 15 caliber. We already have him in the fan rankings. You guys have already voted on that. But yeah, Prates is real good, bro. Anyway, let's move on to the number 2 spot. Number 2, we're going to continue the Fighting Nerds glaze, the Fighting Nerds propaganda. Jean Silva is the number 2 best unranked fighter in the UFC right now, in my opinion. Also, we have this guy ranked in the fan rankings. I got some criticism for it. I know people are like, oh, just recency bias, bro. And they're like, how's he ranked in featherweight? He beat Dober. I'm like, yeah, but he also was the first person to KO Jourdain. So yeah, I still think like a Dober win at lightweight on short notice when he's a featherweight, when Gene Silva's a featherweight, can still mean you put Gene Silva in the rankings of featherweight. Because it's not, ours is not, I mean, people probably vote differently, but for me, it's not just about like, oh, resume, who did you beat? You need to beat a ranked guy to get ranked. That's why we kind of, it's cycles. The number 15 spot at lightweight has changed like 5 times this year. We just keep changing it, and that's fine. Anytime someone gets a win, you just fucking change. Anytime someone who's like in that conversation gets a win, you change it, you switch it over. Sometimes there's been like Ziam one, I'm like, you want Ziam in there? People say no, all good. That's fine. Wait your turn, you get another fight or two, then you're in there. But like, that's my opinion. It's not just based off like who you've beat, but it's like how good you are. Like, if fucking Mauricio Hui beats Lon Top, I might not even put up the poll, because I know people might just fucking get baited and put him 15, because it is also just how good you are. But yeah, Gene Silva, very good. He's a very good fighter. Dober, fucking Jourdain, I know the other guy, Weston Wilson, but Dober and Jourdain are really fucking good wins to have, and he just looks good fighting. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's, like, aggressive, but also elusive as well. Like, Prates is, like, on the outside sniping you. You know, Baralio's doing his thing. Mauricio Hui's real, like, sniper. Doesn't want to be getting hit. Gene Silva's, like, going hella aggressive, like, on the front foot. Looks like he'd be, like, a brawler, like a Drew Dober type. But then he's also got defense, which is crazy. So I think this guy's fucking really good. I think he's top 5 future potential. And he's not even that old as well. I don't even think he's in his 30s yet. So, Gene Silva, we got a lot of him to come. Pause. But yeah, let's move on, though, to the number 1 spot. The highly anticipated number 1 entry of this list. Yeah. In my opinion, the number 1 spot goes to Joel El Fenomeno Alvarez. I think this dude is crazy fucking good. I think this guy is top 10 in literally, like, any other division. Probably top 5 in some. Like, the skills this guy has, I know it's kind of dumb to compare, but, like, this dude's a top 5 heavyweight for sure. This dude's a top 5 light heavyweight for sure. This dude's a top 5, maybe not top 5, like, definitely a top 10 middleweight. Probably a top 10 welterweight, like, skill-wise. Like, his takedown defense is sus, but his jiu-jitsu is crazy. And his striking's great. And even the frame is going to cause problems in any division. Like, if this guy just bloat maxed to heavyweight, he's still 6'3" at heavyweight. Like, that's not even that short for a heavyweight. It wouldn't look good. Like, the weight wouldn't suit him. Like, he'd be fat. But, like, just the skills this guy has, his sharpness on the feet, his striking. This is Glaze Overdrive right now. I don't even fucking care. He whooped up Elvis Brenner. Now, Brenner, you might be like, oh, Brenner's just a wild fucking shootbox guy. He's a bum. But Brenner fucking beat Garam. People forget, man. Brenner beat Garam. Garam's a monster. Who does that to Garam? But Alvarez tuned him up the whole time. Now, I think a lot of people were like, oh, Alvarez by decision, or I think that was kind of the pick, because, like, people like, Brenner's not going to get fucking finished. He's tough as shit. Alvarez tuned him up, whooped him up the whole time, basically didn't get hit clean, like, was not in trouble that whole fight, got leg kicked a few times, and whooped his ass and just kneed the fuck out of him and finished him. Alvarez is fucking good, bro. I'm not going to talk about him for that much longer. Let me keep this video under 30 minutes. But Joel Alvarez, bro, I'm telling you, this dude beats fucking, I don't know, people. He beats Beneil Dariush or some shit. Like, he beats Justin Gaethje, bro, I'm telling you. Maybe not, but that's not a crazy take. Hear me out. Anyway, that'll do it, guys. Like, subscribe, peace out, guys. Fuck off. See you in the next one. Drop video ideas down below. You know the drill. Goodbye. Au revoir.